Hi everyone, this is Joker from Contact Lost. Feels like I haven't been here for a while, but here I am. Today we're going to talk about how is the Polish national team doing, and the best people to talk about this topic are two out of the three selectors, let's say, of the national team. So say hello to Typhus.
Hello.
And Majson.
Hi.
Hey
And it's worth
guys.
mentioning that he isn't actually your son, no matter what people think. There was actually an issue with that when we were doing pairings once for like a scream. Like I said that player is my son, and they were like, "Aren't you fucking 26?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's true."
Well, it's not impossible if you think about that.
No.
It
I'm playing Warhammer 40k.
In general,
I
not
never
in
had
this
luck
case,
with
probably.
ladies. Don't worry.
All right. So anyway, guys, you've been doing quite a lot recently. So I think since we last spoke, there was a boot camp. Then there were, I think, a total of 5 screams, some of which might still be ongoing. And you've been on a team tournament in real life in the Netherlands. So quite a lot going on. So maybe let's start with the screams, because last time you guys were here, I think you were preparing for 3 of them against Spain, France, and Ireland. So let's start with those. Majson, maybe you can tell us how did those 3 go?
Okay, so maybe starting from Ireland, we finished all of 8 matchups, and actually we scored 73 points here. It's a draw, yeah? I don't
No,
remember.
it's a loss.
It's a small loss. Actually, the pairings went quite good according to the estimations, but then some of our green good pairings turned out to be worse, and especially against the one with you, Joker. So yeah, you should remember that. Yeah,
no pressure.
But no pressure. Yeah. But basically, you're out of luck this game, if I remember correctly.
Well, the dice didn't help, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's of course there's it's doable if one pairing goes wrong, but some others also went worse than expected.
Yeah, I think a total of 4 went worse than expected.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, it's not only me. Bugger off.
Yeah, I'm just joking. But basically, yeah, this is loss, and of course we will take our revenge. And I'm in contact with captain from the Irish team, and we will for sure would like to play a rematch with them. I'm not sure when, but.
And this time have less experimental lists and players, let's say so.
Yeah, okay. I get it. You're not gonna take me again.
Oh.
Yeah,
well,
alright.
We'll see.
Well, moving on.
Okay.
Right, well, yeah,
we
thanks
could
for
say
being so
something.
courteous.
We can say something, or we can remain silent.
Yeah,
and
let's
leave it
stick
up
with
to
that.
you to.
I cannot promise anything to you.
No further comments.
Okay. Let's follow on. There's a friend.
We had a match with France, which after 7 games we had 82 points, and last matchup was a drawish estimation for both sides. So we expected this to win like 92, and again we had few matchups that didn't go our way, but at the same time, a lot of our matchups went way better than we expected. So it kind of evened out because two players that had good pairing lost a lot. Then four players that estimated small wins won big. So it kind of evened out. So yeah, that's that. And we also had a matchup against Belgium, which ended up in a draw that was barely a win, almost a win for us. But yeah, not much to talk there. It was mostly testing out new stuff as well.
Yeah, just a small one pairing overestimated, and
By a lot.
And at least not on the mission that was played, and one pairing that were played not in an optimal way, but yeah, it was a close one.
Yeah. And there was an issue because the pairing that we that was underestimated was actually an attacker to our first defender that we expected to be a good matchup, at least according to the estimation. But it turned out to be a very bad matchup. So we could have easily avoided that. And if we knew about that at that step of the pairings, we could have changed the whole pairings, all of it.
Yeah,
So it was
So
as usual. One bad estimation can impact the whole process.
yeah,
sure.
this just shows that doing the right estimations is very important, because as a pairing captain for this scrim, I only take into consideration the table that I have, also and the mission, of course. And if there's some bad estimations, then everything can just go wrong. Just one assumption makes the process a lot harder.
So out of curiosity, what matchup was that? That was that wrong estimation. And looking at it in hindsight, do you think that that pairing generally goes that way in favor of whatever faction it was?
I would start with a statement that we usually, as Majson said, we usually try to not correct the estimations or what players think, what tables they want. So to make sure that even if we know they are wrong, to know that they will learn the lesson and learn it the hard way. So, but that was me interrupting. I think the question goes to Majson.
Yeah, the specific matchup is Ginstral cards versus Drukhari, and basically this is a very hard matchup, at least for Ginstral cards, because you need to play the matchup perfectly, and there are some combinations in the Drukhari list that is just way better against Ginstral cards than the standard one, and this particular kind of Drukhari had a lot of venoms, and our Ginstral cards here well based on Twisted Helix, so pure close combat and no actual way to get rid of venoms very quickly. So this is the one thing. And the other thing is that the Drukhari player played it flawlessly. He started the game and basically pushed attack button on the deployment zone of the opponent, and he didn't mind any defensive strategy that could Ginstral cult player think of. So and he executed that well. The dice were also on his side, and this was a very hard situation for Ginstral cards.
And I would also add that the player who was playing Dark Eldar was one of the better players of Dark Eldar I've seen on TTS. He was playing in the Hottest Stakes team on the Greek Hammer, and we've played against him. I think Majson, you played against
Yeah.
him in Belgium, and he's very proficient in that army, and you could see from his games that he has very thorough and deep understanding of what needs to be done in those matchups.
Yeah, and also he does a good micromanagement of the units. So it's yeah, he's just a good player.
Which you need in a purely close combat army. So it goes a long way there.
All right. I think there's still Spain. I think we didn't cover Spain. So, Typhus, wanna say a word or two on that one?
Yeah, I think we lost that one narrowly. With another situation where one of the games didn't finish. Yeah, after all the games we lost just for like 1 or 2 points. And yeah, it was another game where 2 matchups which were supposed to, like, a lot of people underestimated and overestimated, and there was only one person which underestimated, which just adds up when you see a lot of.
Yeah, and this time it's my fault. So
Yeah.
But basically, I played against the Custodes with the Sister of Battle list, pre FAQ Mono Bloody Rose list. So I just started with less CPs to get a Patrol plus Vanguard configuration, and so I think that it could be better, but the Custodes players rolled about 75% of his 4-up invuls, and if something like that happens on turn 2, when I get just one chance to stand on the table, then the snowball effect takes place, and basically it's game over. But yeah, it was a classic overestimation, because I should have taken this into account and put this a loss pairing, not because the original thought was that I should be somewhere around the draw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
all right. So some lessons were learned. What are your further TTS plans in that case? So, Majson, you've mentioned you've had the Irish. You're in touch with the Irish team. Anyone else on the line to play against?
There's a lot going on that we were thinking about organizing, but there were a lot of issues. Like, we have one going against France right now, but it's prolonging itself. Like, not many games happened. I think the overall motivation of players from both sides is kind of low, and we wanted another game against Spain and Ireland to have our revenges, but yeah, it didn't happen. So we're waiting. We also have Germany planned up, but with the tournament coming closer and closer, with all the international events happening again, like the Alpine Cup, the Prague tournament, then the big team tournament in Warsaw, I think we will not have that many sparings after all, if we also want to have more team meetups, because it's just time consuming at this point, and we might not have time for all of that.
And also the two of the in two screams we got this problem. One game was not played, so it's also something to take into consideration, that people don't have time if they focus on the playing live in real live tournaments.
And let's be honest, like, playing in real life is way better than playing on TTS. So if you can choose one out of two, I'm not surprised more people are dropping out of playing on TTS. Like, you can see on our Discord, we are mainly watching people playing League of Legends instead of 40k lately.
Yeah, but is that only
Which
due
might be a
to?
which might be actually a better game than 40k in its current state. But
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is that purely because of people playing 40k in real life or people not playing 40k at all? But yeah,
I think it's both.
yeah, could be. Okay, what about the boot camp you've had? Oh, actually, before you go into that, you've mentioned the events in Prague and Austria. You guys are going to those? Because obviously we're all going to the Warsaw team tournament, but what about the ones abroad?
Yeah, actually, my team dropped from the tournament yesterday.
Austria, the Alpine.
The Austrian, the Alpine Cup. I'm not sure about the other team. I know that they're planning to go, but yeah, basically the situation is like the tournament will take place in 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
A week after Easter, so that's
Yeah, a week after Easter.
So
yeah, 2
and,
weeks,
Alpine Cup
like
is
3
in 2
days.
weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we already know that there will be a balancing update probably next week, and the cutoff of the rules was yesterday, and I'm not surprised that many people just don't want to play the tournament on the old rules because the current game state is like, yeah, Harlequins just kills everything that can, maybe not the other Harlequins. And in 4 versus 4 tournament, it's just so random that I'm not surprised that many of people just is not encouraged to go and to decide to drop from this tournament.
Mm.
Because also we need to take this economical reason into consideration. It's at least when we counted that it's 12 hours drive to Austria, then playing for the 2 days, then 12-hour drive back to Poland. So
Yeah, not the dream way to spend a weekend, that's for sure.
playing the game in the current
Especially
state.
now, yeah.
So just combined, these 2 reasons combined is just discouraging.
Mm-hmm. I see.
Yeah, and I'm going to Alpine Cup as a head referee, so I'm not gonna play either.
Okay, well, good for you. Well, for not playing at least.
I'm also not sure about the Prague tournament because I think that the rules pack just arrived today or yesterday.
Yeah, I think it was posted on Facebook today. I think I've seen it.
Yeah, so I'll probably look through it tomorrow morning to see how it's organized.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we are waiting for the rules pack because
Yeah.
if we don't know what will be the rules, we might just dodge it. Especially that the same weekend is another Netherlands tournament, which might be a perfect segue, but we might not segue and talk about the team meeting, whatever you prefer, Joker. But yeah, we will see. Like I'm not really sold where we will go. I would like some of the players to go. Like we will probably choose team within next 2-3 weeks. So some of the players would be great to see them perform on an international scene under our like command.
Mhm.
But that's like the main motivation right now to go to those tournaments rather than playing the game itself is more like getting familiar with the environment and the challenges that it provides.
Okay. Okay. So I guess you have some candidates or some draft teams for those events, or not necessarily. You're not thinking about it too much, obviously due to the state of the game right now.
So
Typhus, you want?
okay. So we didn't have anything really pre-planned. We just had some conversation with Patrick about that.
Mhm.
What we would like to see, but obviously with everything being so fluid right now, and we don't know what's gonna happen, like what will be the rules, we don't want to decide on anything. Although I remember the Netherlands tournament pretty fondly, so I wouldn't mind going there once more, rather than going to Prague. But that's me.
Basically, we just need to wait for a balancing patch, and then we'll decide where we are going to do.
All right. Yeah, sounds fair. So what do you guys want to talk about next? Netherlands or the boot camp?
I think the bootcamp is shorter.
Yeah, and yeah. Let's start from the bootcamp.
All right.
Okay, so what's your take about the bootcamp, Joker? Let's twist it around.
The one that I didn't attend?
You didn't attend that one?
No, I didn't attend in the end.
Fine.
I was gonna ask if there's another one lined up, like, I don't know, in May.
Yeah. Well,
for a broader
my
audience. And hopefully I'll finally get there, because that's twice that I signed up and didn't go.
Yeah, you were at the tournament in Warsaw, right? Okay. Yeah, my brain is not working. Yeah, maybe Majson, you want to talk about that one?
Yeah, I think that I can start. So basically, we changed the concept a little. We haven't decided to go for another 8v8 training, because most of the people who are involved in this bootcamp already played in some kind of Scream online, so they know how the team composition work and the pairing process. So we decided to test the specific pairings and specific lists, just to take some, let's say, less standard solutions and try to do something else. Also, there's a lot of new armies to test on the tables. There's during the bootcamp, I think the Tau Custodes were still to be tested on the table. Harlequins and Craftswalls just arrived, so a lot of things to do and to play. Personally, I took, because as we saw during the scrims, my main army, like Sisters of Butter, just don't work right now. I decided to switch for something else. I took the Drukhari list to test. Drukhari list based on Rax. Rax spam plus the support in form of characters on two cards. And this was the idea, was to play this list against the Stampede, Tyranids list, and Custodes, and to play these two matchups for points, because the standard MSU approach for Drukhari got a lot of problems when facing these two armies. There's a little that can be done against Tau matchup with both Drukhari archetypes, I think. Either play just with Tau, either play defensively and hope for a draw, or just try to make a push, and also it ends up somewhere around draw. I took that list, tested that. I liked the playstyle of that, so then I decided to take this with small updates. I took this the same list to the Netherlands tournament. And from the armies that so we tested Harlequins, but yeah, the results were not that scary during the bootcamp, I think. But
it's also worth mentioning that people that were playing Harleys at the bootcamp were actually playing them for the first time. So it also impacts how good you play them, no matter how dumb they are, in my opinion.
Yeah, and probably if they played this on the Untitled bootcamp, the results would be just a lot better. Because yeah, you can also always fall in some traps, and if you test the pairing, you usually play too defensively or too aggressively. Yeah, but that's why we are testing.
And we also try when we test those games, we also agree that it's better to play those games too aggressively rather than too passively, because you can kind of get a grasp on how much damage output you can take and how much do you deal to see how you need to alter your plans during the next games, and whether you can actually go all out or do you need to play more for points. I think it's better for like overall perspective on the matchup to play it over aggressively at first.
Yeah, and I agree. I also had to learn that because I tended to play very defensively with my armies, and now when I'm trying to new army, I'm just pushing to the opponent's deployment zone and seeing how it's going, and at least during testing, just to see how can I play it.
Yeah, and also myself, I've playtested Stampede, even though we already knew the new Tyrannid Codex back then, because I needed some information for the Netherlands tournament. And I think every player except every player except Vishnya was there at the team bootcamp.
Yeah.
So we all used the bootcamp as a chance to get more games into the matchups that we wanted to get the idea how to play before the Netherlands tournament, which I think benefited all of us because Majson played, I think, every matchup he play tested. And like literally, he played 3 games
Yeah.
one day, and he got all those 3 matchups in Belgium. So, and the same I think applies to Skark and Zozo. So I think it was actually very beneficial for us as a testing ground because we realized I changed my list a little bit. Skark completely revamped his list. Zozo's list change didn't matter, but let's be honest, like I'm not bashing on him as a player. It was just a bad army to take. No, I usually bash on people. Don't worry. Well, at this time,
No, I know that.
I genuinely mean that army was a bad choice.
Yeah, now we do know that this particular army, do not work. Yeah.
So yeah, we even just before sending lists, we were already thinking about going back to Sisters as the 6th army. Well, yeah, having all that in mind, it was more as a playtesting round and chance to see how all the big boys that people are fearing of, example, Custodes and Tau, are actually faring on the big points games because we didn't have any big tournaments since they were released. There was one, but for like 1,200 points. So it's not really relevant to what we are trying to test out. So we just wanted to use the event as more of a meta testing ground and getting a grasp of how we will need to deal in Netherlands, and also to give more players that didn't play as much, such as Skark, a chance to familiarize themselves with what's hot at the table.
All right. So, yeah, you said Eldar, you were out by then, so it's just the Tyranids that will be anew now, but we already have some assumptions where they're
everything.
going to sit in the tier list. should people make one. All right, so that's good stuff. So let's talk through the main event in that case, the Netherlands tournament that you've managed to win, going 5-0, right? Was it?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, so
Without taking Harleys. That's important.
yeah, good for you. So okay, so you're saying they're not that strong, right? So they need a buff.
Surely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, right. Okay, let's go through those games then in short. And Typhus, I think you were the captain. You did the pairings for the tournament.
I wouldn't say I've done them myself. Me and Majson, we were sitting out and figuring everyone pairing together
Okay.
and basically consulting them all the time just to like double check and have different opinions. I think once I saved our pairings because I figured something out that we didn't figure out together earlier, and once my son had an idea that was very good for the team. So it was more of a team effort.
Yeah,
Remaining guys just were tasked to choose tables they want to play on or make sure that they have beer in their hands. So the important stuff.
Mm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, sounds good. The team spirit was there. Everyone knew what.
The venue was actually a bar, so it
Ah,
was
lovely.
easy to.
Right. Yeah. I'm glad we're talking about the important things in Warhammer team tournaments. So, who did you go up against first? And oh no, how did those pairings
I
go?
think first we can mention what we took in our team comp.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely good point. Since Harley's went there, it must be a mystery.
So we had the Glorious Five, which is Stampede, Tau, Custodes, Drukari, and not Harleys but Craftwords because Duda didn't want to play Harleys. And then we were thinking about choosing six, and it was Zozo's Orcs, which were clearly a bad choice as an army. So and when it comes to our lists, the main idea was that my Stampede was supposed to be good into Custodes and good into Harleys. So I can play those two matchups that are tough for the remainder of the team, which proved good for the team because I won both of those pairings 20-0. And about other players, Skark was supposed to play Tau that was good in mirrors. We had Orcs who were supposed to just take whatever they give them and lose 20-0. And we had Duda, which we didn't have any plans actually for. And we had Custodes that we wanted them to counter Tau. And then we had Majson with his list, and I will leave it to Majson.
Yeah, so basically the wrag spam that was tailored to score points against Custodes and Stampedes. So these two hard for pairings for matchups, hard for the team. I can even try to win or win with a high score if I'm lucky. But definitely I should not lose these two pairings badly, because both of these lists get just too small amounts of attacks to kill off all the wrags, and the objective secured on the wrags just scores points.
Yeah, sure. Right, so sounds like a good plan. Okay, now that we've got that covered, who did you play against first?
I think
we
that
played everything that was at the event.
Yeah.
That's mentioning. There were six teams, including us, and 5 rounds. So everyone played against everyone. So the sequence of teams we played against didn't really matter because we needed to win every game anyway.
Yeah, and it is a very good, I think, because it's just fair to play against everyone, and it is a nice experience when it
Yeah,
comes to
it felt different than other team tournaments because like everyone knew everyone after like day one. Like you spoke with everyone, you drank beer with everyone, then you went out for an evening at the bar, which was by the way 50 meters away from the venue, so that's convenient. And then it happens that you knew everyone already, so it was very chill and you could actually socialize quite easily, which I think was a great thing about the whole event compared to what you get when you play like 24 5-man teams, Polish team championship, right? You only get to play against 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And moving forward, I don't know if you want the whole matchups, what whole pairings. I think we can talk more about what we've done, what how our games looked. I think 5 games were like 4 out of the 5 games were basically a stomp, around 90 plus to 30 points, as there were 6 players in each team, so total of 120 points could be scored, and we usually scored around 90 plus, except one game. So, but I would, even though the wins were high, I wouldn't call those games that close. After all, like at times we weren't sure whether we will get those wins. Like the matchups and the meta were much closer when we looked at the estimations, but on the table we could feel like sometimes our skill or lack actually was beneficial.
Yeah,
Okay.
from the estimations, I think that 3 of the 5 pairings were more or less somewhere around the draw. So we needed to think about this pairings and how to approach that. So yeah, it was a close one, but I think that we had a very good team composition with some experimental lists here and some micro optimization to get the correct pairings, and this allowed us to do the right pairings and to score just to secure a huge wins when there was they were needed, and to score points out of the bad matchups. Of course, the six army orcs here was just a sacrifice.
It was a sacrificial fodder at one point. We realized that we at at one point we just looked at the pairing matrix and looked what we want to not play against, so our orcs will play against it. So yeah,
Tough luck
just
for
making
Sosa.
sure that he will lose his game, but 2 of our players will get a win. And usually it worked. Like he would get 20 nilled, but we would get 2 high scores from that. So for like from team standpoint,
Yeah,
it was
definitely worth
beneficial
it.
for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. Oh, too bad that those orcs don't hold up to what rocks nowadays.
I think actually it's hard to find the 6th army here in this format. So because also the other teams tried, I think, 1,000 sounds in this place, and
Deathwatch.
and these 2 armies, 1,000 sons got some potential to but according to our estimations, just everyone wanted to play against 1,000 sons, and yeah, it's for now.
They seemed nicer when you were looking at the tables and you had Stampede Tau, Castodes, and Light Harlequins. Those 1,000 Suns really seemed nice to play against. Like,
Yeah, very much so.
so yeah, I think usually it came down most matchups to our players who knew they would need to win big bring in those points. Like Skark playing Tau had 120 out of 120 points, and I think barring Zozo with Bad Army, every one of us got 80 plus points from 5 games. So so we were, if we got a good pairing, we held ourselves up, and if we got a bad pairing, I don't think a lot of us lost our games. Like I lost one 6-14, but I can't recall. I think only Vishnia lost one against Necrons as well, which was 6-14. But mostly people could bring around a draw from even a bad matchup.
Mhm.
So we are prepared in a team sense. Like we knew what every player needed to bring to secure those victories.
Okay, well, sounds like you've had it all planned out. So, yeah, maybe a little about the games themselves. So, Typhus, you mentioned you've lost one game. Is there anything you could have done differently? Or was it, I don't know, bad luck? Or,
You know, it was a stampede mirror. Like
all
it's a
right.
stampede mirror. Like I had like the game was insane from the standpoint that our sighted hero duels always inflicted 5 or more wounds in shooting from those 3d6 shots from Flameware that wounded on 5 up, and then we had 4 ups against it. So that was wild. I was at a disadvantage because my opponent had 3 Flamers, I only had 2. So it was an uneven fight. But otherwise, like there were spikes here, there were spikes there. Like it's a matchup that's gonna be like this, and I probably should have lost it, but I don't think I should have lost it 14-6. I should have lost it like 12-8. I think that's what I estimated as well. So I would have changed some micromanagement, but nothing in the macro scale.
Okay. What about you, Majson? Any games worth mentioning?
I think that's the most interesting game I played was Drukhari Mirror. So Vrax against Grotesques with the Belgium Drukhari player, which also played on the TTS. And
The one that I've mentioned and praised earlier.
I already knew that he's a tough opponent. So, but on the other hand, we both promised draws to our teams. So just imagine 2 Drukhari armies playing mission. It was 11, so Hammer and Anvil deployment. 2 Drukhari players playing defensive game. Just none of us wanted to risk anything, but it's not so easy because if you make a small mistake and let the opponent strike you first, then you can be just overrun by the opponent. So you need to think about the deployment. If you play, for example, banners on the 2 sides, then you don't want to lose your banner from the objective. So you want to secure those objectives, but not to overcommit, just to have a counter for the potential attack from the other side. So it was a nice game because also you had to take everything like this into consideration, and also important was the situation on the other tables. So both me and the opponents just looked from on the other hand tables.
Yeah,
how
they
it's
were
going.
roaming. They were roaming all the time and asking like, "Do I need more points than 10?
Yeah,
I could bring 11. Should I go for it?"
Yeah, and we are just waiting to push this button to the deployment zone and try to go. But
yeah, from like outside perspective, while I was finishing my first turn with my opponent, they were already in turn 3.
Yeah.
And they were just waiting what will happen at other tables. Like literally, I think they finished after us, but they stood after turn 3 for like hour waiting and seeing what they need to do.
Oh, we're just talking about the pairing and what could be done from these 3 turns, and talking a bit about the options. And fortunately, the games were went good for us as a team. So the opponent asked his captain, "Do I need to go for 1 point?" And his captain said, "Yeah, go for it." So he jumped his army into my army, and this the rest of the time we spent on the micromanagement of the actually 2 turns of playing close combat and micromanaging everything. Actually, the going forward, I think this resulted me to secure my because I went second, so this secured my 12 points from primary last turn, and also allowed me to score some more points on the mission specific primary. This was the one that for every unit killed you got 1 point, because yeah, the Wrack squad just don't die, and when the opponent plays MSU, it's way easier for me to score that points. And also managed to take off some banners. So and there was such a situation that I put the 1 Venom, which the opponent couldn't kill, because then he'll lose points from Vrax jumping off the Venom to the objectives. Yeah, all the small plays that could impact the points results. The game ended into a draw, 10-10. But I was 5 points ahead in second in small points. So just one missed point for the 11-9. And in the matchup with Belgium, I think that we won just by 1 single point.
Yeah, it was very close, and I think my game against my Belgian opponent was one of the nicest games I've played in a long time. It was really nice because he was actually Swedish, and he flew over from Sweden to play in that event, and he was playing Needs for a long time, which is really nice when you have 2 players playing mirror and both of them actually know what they are doing. So we always knew what the other one was planning to do, what was the move for. So we always knew the intent because we knew that we would do it anyway. So it was very nice to watch and like to play. Even like if I forgot about something, he was like, "Yeah, obviously, man. Like, don't worry," etc. So yeah, it was really good, really great. And I had few other interesting games. Like I won 20-0 against Harleys, which I was pretty happy about. There were obviously some rolls involved, and my flyer ant killing 6 Void Weavers in 1 round of close combat, which is always beneficial. But other than that, I had a really nice game in terms of how fucking weird the rolls can be when I played against Custodes. I had in 1 close combat Hero Duel killing Tryon, Tryon killing on death that Hero Duel, which fought on death and killed 3 bikes.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, sounds
for
fun.
me, yes. For my opponent, a little bit less. Yeah, like
he was sad.
In 6 attacks after transhuman and denying rerolls on my Hero Duel, which was left on 2 wounds, I inflicted 19 wounds on Trajan. 19. So 4 went through. Yeah, that was crazy. So yeah, I was way better player that game. I rolled way more 4-ups than he did, so he lost. And I think the game like I took the most fun from in terms how I needed to perform myself was against Deathwatch, because I highly underestimated that matchup. and I was down to like Hero Duel and Swarmlord and one Flyerant on wings. My turn 2, which is not a
Sounds
lot.
brutal.
Yeah, and I still managed to get 12-8 by just having 3 models and playing the table and the 9 points and making sure I use every resource I have. Like that was the game where I would turn 2, I would count what stratagems I would need to use until turn 5. And I basically limited what I will use CPs for to make sure I can use them for all of that. So yeah, it was pretty satisfying that I managed to pull that out from what seemed like a huge loss to a small win.
And how many explosions on your monsters?
Yeah. Every monster exploded. I inflicted 20 mortal wounds into myself with explosions. Every single one. I'm not even like literally every single one in a close combat in the middle of the table exploded. I didn't even need to use the CPs. They just exploded. So yeah. There are games like that.
Also, from my side, also I played the nice game against Tyranids. Because before there was a big discussion between me and Typhus. Should we take Hive Guards into the Tyranids list? And we decided just to test the list without Hive Guards. And when we tested this matchup during the bootcamp, it was somewhere around the draw. Wrax against the Stampede. And I actually played here Tyranids with Hive Guards. And I like that very much because the opponent just wasted about it was in total 4 CPs for 4 plus 3, 7 CPs in 2 turns just to heal some of the wrecks, and it was a very bad idea to because you can kill more wrecks, for example, by explosions or by inflicting mortals on the charge.
Yeah, in hindsight, I wouldn't take Hive Guards again. I think they are a waste of points at this point.
Yeah, and I actually managed here to score a big win. I don't remember. Do you remember the exact score? It was about
I think it was 17-3.
Yeah. But this was just because the opponent wasted so many CPs on the Hive cards instead of monsters. And from turn 3, for example, he couldn't counter or interrupt the combat, so I just pushed every wrack into every monster that I could and just killed them one by one. And but yeah, it was definitely an interesting game. Just to test this, how it works when playing against the list with Hive Guards. Probably if I were playing the Tyranids list, then I wouldn't spend any CP on the on Hive Guards. Maybe in some turn when I get the shooting for the Venoms or some targets like Court. But yeah.
Not into racks.
Not in the racks, definitely. Yeah, and I played also the Custodes matchup, but it was the opponent was not very good player. It was a nice game, but he made a lot of mistakes, in my opinion. I managed only to score a small win because the mission is with priority target is just basically 15 points for primaries, which is very hard to block. And he managed to make his ritual with a single Inquisitor. So he managed to score quite a lot of points before I took the table. But basically, the rank list achieved what the list was supposed to do here. So just block the custodies from getting the objectives, use the huge amount of attacks to kill the bikes, and just use the characters to kill some hard targets like the Dreadnought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and in general, when I was looking at the whole event, I could tell like the fact that we were playing 20-0 system for a very long time instead of the win draw lose one. We were used to playing more aggressively to win by a lot, which I think caught some people off guard, especially when I shared our estimations with them and they shared theirs. I could see that they saw a lot more matchups to be around drawish scores, when in reality they shouldn't be. Like Thousand Suns against Tau, when the Thousand Suns from Belgium realized after Skark's turn 2 shooting that if Tau plays it aggressively, you can lose 17 Terminators and 20 Rubric Marines in a turn and you just die. And I think people mostly play to get those small wins, which we had very lengthy conversation about. If you play for a small win, you're more likely to lose a game rather than if you go all out in some matchups. So
yeah, exactly. And also, if you try to go for a high win, it's always better for, not always, but it could be beneficial for a team. For example, if someone is not that lucky one day and lose the pairing. I think that generally people just in this edition are afraid to lose the models, to lose the units, and it's quite a wrong approach with the games.
yeah, I think that's what I learned the most this edition, was actually me learning to play all out and don't care how many models I lose as long as I fulfill the objectives I have in mind. So I use, like, I remember throwing away Drazar in Dark Eldar to kill like 40-point unit, and people would be like, "Why do you do that?" Like, it's just worth it. Like, it doesn't make sense point wise, but what it achieves is more important than what the model is worth itself. So
yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting insight. Right, so well, congrats on winning that event. That's some good stuff. So in that case, I think we've spoken for a while now, but maybe you guys can tell me what's next for the team. Have you got any plans? I mean, we've touched upon this already in a way, because you've mentioned that not many screams. Then again, there are those team tournaments, but depends on the rules packs. So, anything else you have in mind?
I'm mostly looking forward to these weekends team tournament in Coventry, and also to seeing all the players I've played against on TTS on Alpine Cup, because most of the national teams from other countries will be there. So I'm looking forward to observing more high level play. And I think that's what's gonna give us insight. But I think the thing we are looking the most forward to in terms of a team is actually the new night codices and the new data slate, as this will give us as the direction where what we should do moving forward, who should we assign to what army, and whether we should even double in knights or move into completely different army. That's my take. I don't know what's my
Yeah, it's more or less the same, because the when the Knights codexes arise, then basically they can shift the game in the other direction. They both can be the auto pick for the team, or both can be trash, and a lot can happen here. And basically, there might be a need to take both of them for 40. We'll see. Also, this balancing patch, because we know the current game state is not that good, and
I think it's one of the worst we've had. Like I've been there in 7th, but fuck me, we didn't have such problems like right now.
yeah, basically, the problem now for me is that the armies here just play the games by statistics. The statistics of the units matters. So you just win the game not by a skill, not by a plan, but just pure statistics. I like Harlequins. Just kill the opponent off the board. Just remember that you don't have to wait to play defensively, because your boats just don't die. And I'm really looking forward to changes that might arrive from the balancing patch. I'm not sure what we all get there. It can be also not impactful at all, but I'm looking forward to it. Because if that's not don't change the game a lot, then we need to think hard to find the 6th army, for example.
And 7th and 8th.
Yeah, and here I'm assuming, of course, the situation that Renegade Knights and Imperial Knights are working. So, but yeah. Also, I'm waiting for the release of the tourneys, because and the information from GW if this Stampede is going to stay with us or no, because it's also kind of important for the meta game and how
I hope
tourneys
they
will
will
play.
ban it. It looks
Yeah.
worse than Harley's. It really does. I mean, maybe not much worse, because you will need some more skill than in Harley's, I would say. But still,
Yeah.
bonkers.
Well, that Flyrant that just flies up, kills something, deals mortal wounds, and then goes back under Tyrant Guard protection doesn't sound like a
Yeah,
skillful play.
dealing 20 mortal wounds with one model doesn't sound balanced.
No, it does sound a bit wrong, to say the least. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
And
that's optimistic.
of
Yeah, go on,
course,
Majson.
Yeah, and I was about to complain about bodyguard rules. So.
Oh yeah, we
Yeah,
hate
the
that.
worst mechanic. The worst.
Right now, it's in nearly every good codex got something like this, and it's just so uninteractive on the board. So it just bans the entire armies that's based on shooting from getting something, and getting the bodyguard on models like Hive Tyrants, which basically I think that the wording is that it's specifically only for Hive Tyrant, yeah, not for the character. And we knew that Longstrike bodyguard was not intended, but here the intent is clear. It's just stupid. Don't have other word for that.
Yeah, no, agreed. I mean, if you take into account what that Flyrant does, then like I'm looking at my Actually, I'm not looking at my Magnus because he's sitting in the box in in the cupboard. But yeah, he's just super sad at this point. Oh well. Right. So any boot camps you have in plans though, or are you only gonna have that after you pick the team and then just focus on those guys?
I think we will have 2 before the event. One we've already team picked, and one after lists. I think that's what we expect. Like there's so many weekends already taken that you cannot realistically expect people to go to, for example, Prague next weekend to a team meetup and then go for a team tournament in Warsaw. Like you need to have those weeks apart between events. So with how packed the schedule is, I would expect us to have only 2 events before the main event itself.
Exactly. And so also, of course, we are waiting for the final decisions, how we'll proceed with the team compositions for the Prague and yeah.
At this point, I think like instead of one team meeting, if we know the team, going for that team tournament might be more beneficial for people who are more new to the community. That's what I mean.
All right. Well, I think we've covered what we were planning to cover. So thank you, as always, for joining in, guys. Pleasure to have you and to talk with you about Warhammer.
Yeah, if only the game was in better state, huh?
Yeah, I mean,
for me, it's still better than League of Legends that you guys play. So
I do not. I just watch it.
I don't even watch it. So yeah. Okay, so the three of us are fairly healthy, with Typhus being the bad apple here. Regardless, I mean, I just want to say that.
My nickname, like I need to not be healthy with my nickname. That's granted.
True, that's true. But yeah, I just want to say that during this whole recording, I've had at the back of my head that we had a very nice chat before we started. That was not about 40k, and when we got into 40k, it was like, So yeah,
Yes.
let's try to be optimistic for that balanced data slate, and obviously here on Contactless, we're probably going to do a hot take. We'll see who manages to join us for that. But for today, that's it. So thanks again to Typhus and Majson for talking about the national team.
Thank you.
And that's it for
Right.
tonight. Thanks, guys. Remember to like and subscribe if you like the content we do here, because that really drives us forward to carry on doing this. Because, like you could hear, the times are not great to just hop in and talk about 40k. All right, enough complaining. That's it for tonight. Thanks and bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.